What if Star Wars did a what if show? What if
Wow.
the Coruscant Knights team focused on Pixar movies?
Mm.
What if Jack and Mark liked the sequels? What
Oh, Cooper
if
hated them.
Darth Jar Jar? These are the
Ooh.
questions that we will be discussing today on the podcast. Star Wars, what if? We've each come up with different prompts. We're going to discuss them. We're going to get straight in, and I'm going to start. Okay. I'm very excited about this first one, guys.
Oh gosh.
Let's go.
This one involves you guys having to know about Star Wars Rebels,
Okay.
which I'm assuming you do.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Mm.
The episode will be titled "What If the Old Master Discovered Luke Skywalker."
So it is about it's more. It's more.
This
Oh.
was no, this is a different one. But here's the idea, right? When
Mm.
Maul goes to Tatooine to find Obi-Wan,
Mm.
Mm.
there's a little bit of conversation about Luke saying, "Is he the chosen one?"
Mm.
And Obi-Wan says he is. What if in that situation or scenario, Maul beat Obi-Wan and Maul went to go find Luke Skywalker? And then what if Darth Maul started to train Luke Skywalker in the ways of the Force, killed Aunt Beru and Uncle
Ooh.
Owen, took him as his own, took him around the galaxy, like what he did with Savage, and taught him how to become a Sith? Or not a Sith, but maybe how to wield the Force.
I'm
And
thinking
then,
Nomad. Yeah.
what'd you say?
Nomad. Like he's not
Yeah.
a Jedi. He's just a grey
Yeah.
Jedi Sith
Yeah.
user.
Just imagine the whole trajectory of Luke's story
Hmm.
and Darth Maul's legacy
That's
would
a good one.
completely change.
That's very
So,
good.
That
yeah,
has so many implications for it.
I know that's what, yeah, and
Like, just imagine if like Vader or someone found out about Luke, and then when they finally realized, they went and he wasn't there. He was completely gone.
what if
Vader-
what if Darth Vader was confronted? What if Maul and Luke went to confront Vader, and that's how Luke found out Darth Vader was his father?
That might send him back on the
Oh,
path of maybe that might send him back on the path of quote unquote redemption.
you
And
know
might
what? There
when he's done.
you got a whole Maul Luke spin-off series right there.
But
Bang.
also
Already better than the sequels.
what also makes it interesting though is that if you did do that in that trajectory, then will that affect the relationship between Darth and them? Or do you reckon Maul, I know he'll be ancient as by the time this comes intuition, Maul and Luke versus Darth and Emperor, what would happen?
Oh,
You reckon
Damn.
oh,
What a
because I
battle.
reckon Maul might have Darth on toast maybe now that Darth's in the suit, maybe? Do you reckon?
yeah. Oh, I'd say it'd be pretty even, but I think Darth Vader would probably still take him.
I reckon Luke would take Emperor with ease by then because he would be trained so much into both sides that he would be using his maximum,
Yeah.
kill him instead of sparing his life. But
Mm.
that could be an interesting concept because then Darth might get jealous.
And
If
you
he
know what else about that?
Oh,
When you actually said it, the first thing that came to my mind was how tragic it was that, because there's this whole story plot of Obi-Wan and Maul throughout like the prequels, the Clone Wars, Rebels, so much. And if it ended, imagine if it ended with Maul killing Kenobi
look,
after everything that had happened.
you know what I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to happen though? This would be another what if, I guess, but this is not we don't want to go in too much of a tangent. But in that situation, what if they both what if I said it without even meaning to?
I'm gonna say it a lot.
Yeah. How about I'm trying to think of a different word for this. Okay, let me just say, what if they both ended up deciding not to take each other out and
Yeah,
became
spare each other.
Oh,
on
And
the
they,
same side? Because by the end, Maul's like, is he the what is it like? Is he the
I
chosen
don't. And he says, is he the chosen one? And
he
Luke
will redeem
says, oh, not
or
Luke.
something?
Yeah, Obi-Wan says, yeah, Darth says he will redeem us. Um, I don't think Maul is a purely bad, not a not a
Yeah.
Sith, but he's a bad person, I
He was
suppose.
fixated on
he's
revenge.
like the Sith version of a great Jedi.
Yeah,
Yeah. He was too fixated about Obi-Wan for his whole life that I think
Mm.
led to his demise. I
Yeah.
feel like if he wasn't so fixated on Obi-Wan and moved on, he would have been more powerful than a lot of the other Siths.
oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, so I thought, just that one thing. It only took Obi-Wan three sort of swings with the lightsaber to kill Darth Maul. But
Mm.
what if Maul didn't get so cocky and uh, took Obi-Wan out? I thought that, I think overall Obi-Wan was going to defend with his life. He wasn't going to let Luke. I mean, Maul
He wasn't
already
going to
had
risk.
Luke.
He wasn't going to risk Luke's future.
Yeah, exactly. So
I just thought of something hilarious, by the way.
yeah.
What if Maul killed Obi-Wan on in the Phantom Menace?
Instead
Instead
of
of
Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon,
No. Instead
Oh.
or as
of
well as.
him getting jumped over and getting cut in half, what if he actually killed Obi-Wan? Who would be Anakin's master then? Because he's already killed Qui-Gon. Damn.
Yeah.
Anakin wouldn't. Oh, he wouldn't even be in the Jedi Council then, because there
Probably
is
not.
because Obi-Wan let him in there. Oh,
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
because Anakin was relying on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan taking him
yeah.
back to the
yeah,
Jedi.
it was
So
Well,
Qui-Gon's last wish to have Anakin
Darth Maul would
trained.
find him somewhere. That's
yeah.
crazy.
Or hear me out, Anakin, because he's such a good pilot, even as a kid, he'd just go
Fly
around the
past the
galaxy
Coruscant.
blowing stuff up for fun as an
No, he
11-year
fly
old.
himself to Coruscant where they know the Jedi's are.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a really good one.
Yeah,
That
I
was
think
Yeah, I
so.
like that one. That
All
was
right,
great.
Mark, let's go.
Mine are not as in depth, but I'll start with what if Anakin was discovered as a baby instead of a child?
yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Because Anakin, one of the main reasons he gets turned to the dark side is because of his attachment to his mother, and also because the Jedi Council believe that he's too old to be trained as a Jedi.
Hmm,
So, so what if he was found by Qui-Gon or some other Jedi as a baby instead?
interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I like what you mentioned about the attachment. I feel like as a baby, well, obviously most Jedi are taken as a baby, because
Mm.
they don't have that attachment. I think maybe
What
there
I
might
wonder,
still be some connection just based off of who Anakin is. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously the Jedi would get to mold who he becomes, but maybe there might still be some sort of
Well,
lingering.
he's got those I
well,
forgot what they're called, but they're Force vision things.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
would probably still see glimpses of his mum, or like of a woman, even at least, and then might,
mm,
him. He's very likes to go find out about stuff. He might end up still turning the same way, but you never know. That's the
what
thing.
I wonder is if the Jedi, and especially Qui-Gon, because he's the one that was so focused on it, would have realized or found out or even thought of the fact that Anakin might be the chosen one in the
Hmm.
prophecy.
yeah.
Because I think he finds out, doesn't he? Because Anakin shows a lot of traits of force sensitivity as a child. So, so that's when Qui-Gon takes his metachlorian count.
Oh
But what
yeah,
if he's as a baby, maybe it wasn't so obvious that he had such strong powers in the force.
yeah.
So,
It's interesting.
oh, sorry, Jack, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say though, because we were speaking about Qui-Gon with that. I never actually know. I don't know actually know the answer to this. I'm not sure if it's been said. Was Qui-Gon right with Anakin being the chosen one? Did he know that he would had to go through the stage of going evil to then be redeemed to end up killing the Emperor? Like, did he know that far in like, or did he just
I
have
don't
a
think he
hunch?
knew that. I don't think he knew all that would happen, but I think he knew that Anakin was the chosen one.
I
But
also think that he saw probably the overall goodness in Anakin,
Mm.
that even though he could go on to do these terrible
he's
things, which
still
he does, he would redeem himself. I mean, you got to think, but okay, let's just think here. And I know this is a bit of a tangent.
Hmm.
Does everything that Darth Vader did, all the people he killed in the movies, shows, comics, um, not canon? What's not canon called?
EU,
Yeah, EU.
expanded universe.
Yeah. So does all that make up for killing, or is all that made up for killing the Emperor?
No,
Well, that's a
Exactly.
big
but
ethical
this is
question, and personally, I don't think so either.
but that is also, I think, a story from Legends or something where they explore. Or no, I don't think so. I think it's actually a what if video I've actually watched too, where it's like if Darth survived Return, he would go on living a good life, but everyone and everywhere he goes, he'll be known still as that kind of dictator leader or like the sidekick of Emperor who would never be good kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think even if he survived that, he would still have a pretty horrible life because of just how notorious he is, kind of thing. I
Could you
guess
imagine that? A good Darth Vader.
I can see it though, because even though the mask doesn't convey emotion, especially when he turns to help Luke, you can just tell that he's like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
his whole aura changes. Like he just looks friendlier, kind of thing.
Well, I even think you can, even though the mask doesn't change, it looks almost like, um, quite sad.
Yeah, I don't feel scared of him. I feel more sad for him rather than
Yeah, at the end, yeah.
yeah. Like even at the start, like I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't watch in the movies the original trilogy, but I never thought he was that scary looking. Like everyone says he's a scary
I
looking.
do agree with that actually.
I think I've always seen him as someone who's broken inside, but the suit's covering his actual emotions, which makes it scary. You don't know what he's thinking, kind of thing.
Mm.
Like I wouldn't like to be an Imperial officer with him, that's for sure. I'd be scared if I was them. But as a passive onlooker, but I guess in the Legends comics, he's a lot more vulgar and uh, violent, I guess you could say. So that's
Oh, yeah.
even in the Obi-Wan show, he was a lot more erratic and didn't
Mm.
really, care for other people, especially in that village. So I
Mm.
guess,
Mm.
but I've never like I thought he was a lot more scary when you could see his face and know what he's kind of doing. When he's mysterious, I feel more sad for him, kind of thing. But that's a tangent. Mm.
Actually, Mark, I've got a question.
Yes.
Does your story, your logical story, involve, and this might sound weird, does it involve Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan finding Anakin how 11, 10 years earlier, or does it involve Anakin
Yoda.
being born 10 years later?
Mm.
Well, I wouldn't say it involves Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, them two finding him earlier, but I wouldn't say that it's him being born earlier. I don't whether he's found. He would probably be found by someone else because Obi-Wan would be too young, I'd
Cad
say,
Bane.
and Qui-Gon might even still be a Padawan at that point. I'm not really sure how long he'd been a Jedi for, but I would still say he would be found. He would be found earlier because he's a baby. He wouldn't be born earlier.
Okay.
So he might just be found by someone else. Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Imagine Cad Bane finding him like he did in the Clone Wars. The bounty hunters picking him up.
Oh
That'd be
yeah,
nuts.
that's right.
That would
Yeah,
be
that
nuts.
arc.
That's so weird. Anyway, that's
All
a good
right.
one.
Jack, your turn.
Let's go
Rise
with
us.
let's go with I'm gonna do this one. So this one is the first one so far today, which kind of links to sequels, which is interesting, but in the terms of nothing that we've seen in the movies, and it's about Return. So what if Han or Leia died in Return of the Jedi? So the reason why I said this is because those guys are obviously the parents of Kylo Ren. Now, the logical response to this would be like, oh, if they were continuing with what they wanted to do with Force Awakens, which is probably not true because they didn't really plan it that much, but let's just say they had this already, they would have just been like, oh, Leia or Han got married to someone else and they had the kid and it would still be Kylo Ren, right? Or Ben Solo, whatever it is
Well,
who dies.
I
Ben
don't
Solo.
think that could happen without Leia.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
True, but if Han married into a different Force user or something, you never know. That's what I'm trying to say. Like if they want to go that way. But I don't know, it's a bit weird. But here's my main one because it also has expanded universe and legends with it. I would think that it would go the way that I would say, let me just for sake's purposes, I'll say Leia dies. Han survives. What do you
Okay. Yep.
No, I'm waiting to hear if you're going to say a name.
Yes, I am. I'm going to say that Luke Skywalker ends up finding Mara Jade. Mara Jade and Luke become together. And
Nice.
the sequels will be based off his kid, which could be a daughter or a boy or whatever they want to be, binary gender, whatever. But for sake's purposes, let's just say it's you know what, a female. They have a daughter, all right. And this daughter ends up. So Luke still goes with Mara Jade to create this temple, and then you got Mara. Then you got the daughter. Maybe she's feeling a bit isolated from the parents. Maybe they're too busy focusing on their students, and then she's not. And then their daughter's not getting enough attention because they're both the only masters there, which then leads into her betraying them as a kind of like a act of rebellious nature.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd say Snoke would be his own character. He would sense that there's been a shift in the Force. Luke Skywalker's son or daughter, sorry. Luke Skywalker's daughter is now kind of in this kind of Force feeling and he can sense it and he capitalized on it, convinces her to go to the dark side, and boom, sequel trilogy created based off that interaction instead of Han and Luke's son.
That already sounds better.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And most of that, I would say, could be the first of that new trilogy because that's the backstory.
And it
build up.
also links to their kind of idea already having a female protagonist as such. So we would follow the daughter actually, not the other two, and we would see her progression from maybe we see her in the good through like a flashback or a pre-scene. Then she converts to evil for like the second one even, and then she gets redeemed in the third.
You know what's great about that?
Hmm?
You know what's great about that one?
No Ray.
she, as opposed to Rey, would have had Jedi training, which means that she wouldn't just know how to do everything like Rey does.
Would be
But
better. I reckon.
also, the fact that wait, yeah, she's Luke's daughter,
And
and that
Mara Jade.
the story of her being kind of in the background of them being too focused on rebuilding the Jedi Order,
Hmm.
and that's even more motivation as
Yeah,
opposed to Rey, who we don't really see much motivation.
I just think having that concept, because they obviously tried to go the way of the Jedi Temple and stuff, and Kylo Ren being one of its best students, or Ben being one of their best students. I just think I'm trying to keep it to the narrative of what I think they initially had as the idea, but then have the main factor be more interpersonal, being a family issue that leads it away, like it was with Kylo kind of and Han not being probably the parental figures that he needed, which is similar to Kylo, but then it's also a mix of Rey and a mix of old Jedi's that we know from the past, a bit of Anakin even. So I just think it's fluid and it rhymes. So I think that's why I like it, and it would make for an interesting story that already had some lore on it, especially with Mara Jade and stuff.
Mm.
And then it would still have Luke being the primary kind of legacy character, and then you could even like kill off Han or Leia, like if they're already dead, one of them as such. But like it doesn't really matter as for them as much because it's more focusing on the legacy of what was happened before. So yeah, I think it would have been good.
I gotta
That's true.
say, as Mara Jade is my favorite Legends character, I think it's honestly a disservice we didn't get to see her in the Disney stuff, which is a
Maybe
shame.
might
Maybe
still
we might still.
a secret relationship we didn't know when he was on the island.
That's it, maybe. But I think she's such an awesome character,
Yeah.
and I think it really changed the dynamic of Luke. And
Mm.
I know they had, I'm pretty sure they had two sons. I know
Yeah.
one was named Anakin,
Yep.
and one was the other one named Jason.
Was that Jason Solo? Was that the Han and
Oh
Leia?
yeah, it was
Yeah, I think
Jason
it was.
Solo.
Yeah.
Wasn't it
Yeah,
Ben Skywalker?
Ben
Yeah.
Skywalker. Yeah, that's it.
Mhm.
So I think seeing that would have been really cool. And I mean, I can't believe all of this happens. I mean, not that it's what your what if was. It was if Han or Leia dies, but just those greater implications of what could be, I think are really cool. So I really
Yeah.
commend you on expanding that story. It was very good.
I agree. That was great.
That was interesting.
All right. Now, I was going to do this second one, but you guys kind of already mentioned that it would be cool, but also a bit strange. I was going to say, what if Darth Vader survived Return of the Jedi and he joined the
Right.
New Republic? I'm not going to speak about that now because you guys have already kind of discussed it.
We've already kind of covered that, but yeah, that would have been an interesting one. That's for
I
sure.
yet would want to see that probably out of almost everything that we've talked about so far, because we've always wanted more post, Anakin stuff, even as a ghost, which I hope we get Ahsoka and stuff. Just a bit more character development after, because we
Yeah.
got so much before, quite a little bit in the middle, but not that much, but then like nothing after it. So it's kind of like we want a bit more, But yeah.
I'm going to go a different route, and this one isn't going to have a very logical
Oh, here we go.
story because it's
No.
just so. This would have massive implications, especially for the modern Star Wars kind of timeline. So, oh god, you guys are gonna freak out when I say this. What if the rule of two never existed?
Oh,
What?
Now, I know you
Jeez.
got to think about it. The rule of two, from my knowledge, was established by Darth Bane.
Yeah.
That came towards the end of the Old Republic, I think.
High Republic? I
Some-
don't know.
No, the
One.
Old Republic.
Old
Because
Republic.
I
Yeah.
know. There was like what the time of Darth Revan. He wasn't that wasn't a thing. The rule of two then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
And
true.
Malgus and all them.
yeah, Malgus.
Yeah.
So imagine if I'm more thinking towards modern Star Wars. What if Palpatine could have
As many.
as many apprentices as he wanted? Like I know the rule of two was created to stop the Sith destroying each other because
That would
of the
still happen
power
in
that they wanted.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been cool to see because we don't see Count Dooku and Darth
Darth Maul.
Maul together.
Even Grievous.
I don't know if I'd
no.
consider Grievous a Sith,
No.
but
I would consider him an agent for the Sith. He would be in that collective, but he's not a force wielder, which could create.
Well, the thing is, I feel like Grievous, and this is going off topic, but I feel like he's more of a separatist than he is a Sith.
I agree.
True,
Yeah.
but then but then Count Dooku was the main leader of like for the Separatists, though. So
Yeah,
you
but
don't call
he
him.
was acting as a Sith, like the great conspiracy in the
He
background
was
of the
just
Sith.
posing as that, I know, but he wasn't really either, to be honest. I feel like he was more of a grey Jedi. I think he was going for his own motives, and he had issues with both sides, and he couldn't really because he like they said, he goes, "Oh, I can't remember which movie or show something it was in, but they go, oh, Count Dooku's not a terrorist. You know, he
Yeah,
just
that's in Phantom Menace, I think.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
not a murderer; he's a politician.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, not a terrorist, a murderer. Sorry, something like that." And I was like, well, that's a perfect explanation because it kind of shows that like he's not to the extent of like Palpatine and stuff. Like even Maul almost in those movies was just like brainwashed, kind of,
Mm.
a follower. So
Well,
it's
all of Palpatine's apprentices are kind of brainwashed. Even Vader. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
he's pretty much been seduced since a little kid. So
So would you reckon if the rule of two didn't happen in for modern, would you reckon all these apprentices, let's just say he gathered all of them, would they be kind of inquisitors in this aspect that they would be fighting to get number one spot next to Emperor? Or will they all just team up against Emperor and then be another whole repeat recycle kind of
that's the
dethroning?
thing. I don't know, and
Yeah,
that's why this is such a difficult question to pose because it's just this is something that has restricted a massive part of the Star Wars timeline for so long.
But then
So
if they
just
work together, they would destroy the Jedi because of all their
they
power
would.
that they have. They're just
well,
always
that's the thing that always confuses me because they have the rule of two, and yes, I know technically every person only has one apprentice, but there's Count Dooku, the Sarge Ventress,
yeah.
Darth Maul, Savage Press.
All of
Well,
the Inquisitors,
all
I would
the
Yeah,
consider them
for
Sith.
the
Darth was
original
trying,
time period, there's the Inquisitors as well.
Darkula,
Ezra was trying to get Emperor was trying to get Ezra and stuff too. So it's like
Yeah,
crazy.
it's just yeah, that's what I'm saying.
so
Like,
I
there's just
mean,
already that many Sith.
I
But
know, but just uniformly, if that's a word, just looking at what we see in the movies, ignoring like the shows and everything, you kind of know about the rule of two, and even seeing the originals, you know it's only two Sith. So I just thought, without all of this extended stuff and all these titles like Inquisitor or Hunters or whatever they are, have them be strictly Sith. Like, don't have Darth Maul go to Maul, have him be Darth,
yeah,
stay Darth Maul.
you
Anyway,
guys see
so,
you see the background here? That would almost be
yeah,
like this. Like imagine if they turned these two evil, like Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. Boom, you got even more Sith again, kind of thing. Like
yeah.
I think, but I think that's the whole kind of purpose of what Jordan was trying to tell, saying that the Sith, if they work together, would overthrow and dominate the entire galaxy. But the issue they have is that with that much power comes mental problems. I mean, like they can't do that. It's just physically incapable for them to.
They're too power hungry.
Yeah, they can't see the realistic side of it and the practical side of it if they just all work together. Like it happened in the Old Republic a bit. Had the Sith be like very powerful, but then it kind of still went to the eventual downfall. Like it's just never. Even the Jedi. The Jedi did this too. Technically, they got too comfortable. So it's like maybe did the Jedi need to have almost like their own rule because there was so many of them that they ended up having their own disputes within, not overthrowing and overruling, but more just not being able to see the threat in front of their eyes, kind of thing. So it's like it's interesting to see how that rule could almost work for both of them, and how what would happen if it didn't work for both of them. It's interesting.
I'm just going to interrupt on a point you just made, Jack. And this is a story that I made that I might share with the Coruscant Knights community. It's a show set after Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, it very much deals with corruption and also with the destiny of the Force and war. And there's very not self-centered, but the villain is very kind of knowledgeable and understanding of the history of war and like the cycles that it keeps going through.
So he's a Bane.
And the whole point was the conversation that I'm thinking of was about why am I blanking? I remember what it was, but it was something about war is always going to happen. That's going to always be the answer because if you give away too much power, you just build up another. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly.
I know what you mean.
If two sides join, it sparks the idea for someone else to
Repress.
and get into war. So war is just always continual. So I don't know if that made any sense, but I was trying to link my point to what you were saying. So
works. It works perfectly. It's a good idea, and it's a concept we'd definitely like to see in a show episode format too. Just seeing all of them together would be crazy.
Yeah. All right, Mark.
All right, my other one, pretty straightforward. This one. What if Han and Chewie didn't save Luke during the trench run? Luke would probably be killed. I'd say by Vader. The Death Star wouldn't be blown up. Almost all of the rebellion would die on Yavin 4.
I have a theory, Mark, if you would like, if I
I'd
could.
very much like to hear it. Thank you.
So, not logical because probably wouldn't happen. But do you think, Mark and Cooper, that if they didn't come to save Luke, would Darth have a moment like Kylo Ren does and hesitate because a sudden wave of family and affection comes over him and then decides not to pull the trigger, but then someone else does it to Luke, or like just misses, or he fades for a second?
I'll answer that one. And I did think about that he might hesitate, but the thing is, he does say during the actual movie, the Force is strong with this one, but he does. Cooper, can you please stop shaking your head? I can't think. Sorry. He says the Force is strong with this one, but I don't think he actually knows that it's his son. I think he would just pull the trigger because he's just viewing it as he needs to save the Death Star, save the Empire.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Vader doesn't find out Luke is his son until after Episode 4. So
yeah, I know, but it's more just the idea of like.
The other thing is, I'm pretty sure in The Last Jedi, Kylo Ren knows that Leia's there.
Yeah,
he knows his mother's there on board, but I don't think Darth Vader is aware that his son is right in front of him.
You would think that he would be, though. That's the thing that I'm always being like confused by. Even in the Obi-Wan show, Darth would have known that Leia was there. He would have sensed it. They have family connections to begin with. Like, I don't like that's the kind of what's it called, the plot armor writing, in my opinion, because Darth is so powerful in the Force. He always has these good visions and stuff. He would know. Like, he would, if they're in a close proximity, he would have that instant kind of boom. He's my son is here. It's not just some random Force dude kind of thing, because he's done that before with Inquisitor.
That's true, but also I was just thinking about that scene in my head as well during the trench run. Is that Vader actually fires at him multiple times, and Luke manages to avoid all the blast of fire.
Yeah.
So he's already pulled the trigger quite a few times. So I don't think that it would register in his head.
But then after that implication, and let's just say logical one, he dies. Would Yoda then and Ben reach out to Leia, and then have her become the main protagonist to take down Vader? You reckon?
I reckon that's a good point. They probably would. It's just that I think that Ben has made that's now that we've had the Kenobi show, Obi-Wan and Leia do know each other, so that's true. I was gonna say that Obi-Wan has been, there for Luke, if you want to put it that way, for pretty much his whole life. So he knows Leia. It's just I don't think that he's as close to Leia as he's Luke. Yeah, but he'd probably. I'd say that him and Yoda would still do that probably.
That's another thing that show kind of annoyed me about, because they had such a good. I think the young actor for Leia had a good chemistry with Obi-Wan, and even when he goes, "Oh, if you ever need me, just call me," kind of thing. You just don't get that. And then now that you watch A New Hope now, after that, it's like they don't talk to each other at all or anything. It's like, dude, he's been on a mission before to rescue Leia. Like, how is he? It is confusing, It's a bit like, what? How did he not say a thing about that, But it's sad, unfortunately, that you can't. But yeah,
I thought their dynamic was fine. And it worked for the show, but
not for after implications, in my opinion. Because it doesn't make sense how he wouldn't talk to Leia at all about anything,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I suppose.
Like, after that, all that stuff that happened to them and all that Darth stuff, you would think that by then he would be very close with Leia too, not just Luke, kind of, because in that mindset at the start of the show, he was only focused on Luke. My whole thing's about Luke, but then change that. But then in A New Hope, it's all about Luke, and a whole original trilogy all about Luke again. So it's like, oh, I just reverse.
Right. Yeah, that's
It's
true.
an interesting concept, though. Yeah.
I like it, Mark. I think,
So
and
I was
also we
just-
should talk about. Oh, sorry. Do you want to go?
I was just, were you gonna continue on mine, or were you gonna start a new one?
No, I was going to continue on yours.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
We didn't really talk about Han and Chewbacca.
that's true.
So what would be happening to them? They would probably.
What I would reckon is that it would be exactly what happened. They'd take their money and leave, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't necessarily have that guilt, which is what I think is what sends them back.
Yeah.
Or maybe they do, but they just decide not to go back anyway. Maybe Chewie doesn't convince Han, which is, I reckon, what happened in the actual story. Chewie probably said we should go back and help them out.
I mean, to be honest, they show up at literally the last second.
Yeah.
The movie. So they could have had that sort of realization maybe 10 seconds later, and it would have been too late.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like maybe even if they didn't save Luke, they still could have had that guilt. But I do agree with what you say, Mark.
Now that you mention it, it felt like a very shoehorned in moment just to have them show back up and be the quote unquote heroes kind of thing. like they didn't even show up just before and killed a few other shits before. Nah, they just came straight for the big boy, like.
Well, to be fair, you don't actually know that because they don't show it.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It felt so like just perfect, like plot writing for it. It's pretty funny.
Well, I was also going to mention what I reckon the consequences would be if this happened, and I think maybe it would still end a similar way of the whole saga. But I think the fact is they would have to train Leia, as we were saying, that would probably take a lot more time because she hasn't been exposed to the Force or any of that sort of thing. And I reckon that perhaps the Empire would still hold their iron grip on the galaxy, perhaps maybe for a few years longer, or perhaps for a lot longer. We don't really know. It really depends on what would happen with Leia or anyone else who could challenge Vader.
That's interesting.
Also, this is kind of off topic, but Mark, I just realized in your background, Cloud City forms the visor for Boba Fett. That's really cool. I really like it.
It is cool.
Yeah. All right. Jack.
Okay, last one for today's episode. Interesting. I actually am going to pick a different one than what I was initially planning.
Ooh.
Because I think we've talked a lot about original trilogy stuff and Luke and Leia implications and stuff. So I'm actually going to go with, what if Anakin left with Ahsoka? Left the council and everything. Left the Jedi Order.
Is this in season 6?
I'd like to pose a quick response question for that.
Logical first?
No, I just want to have a quick follow-up question.
Okay, yep, go for it.
Does he just leave the Jedi Order, or does he leave it and go with Ahsoka and they stick together still?
Okay. This is the logical one, right? This is what you're trying to. I think this is what my idea of what your question was, Mike. The logical one would be he would leave the Jedi completely like Ahsoka, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we see already with Ahsoka would have Anakin with Ahsoka, right? So I think it wouldn't change too much about what they do. However, I feel like that it kind of just ends there because then it gets into hella fan fiction way out of the bus. So it's like you can almost just end it there. They go off there and eventually Anakin will somehow get convinced by Emperor Chancellor to come back. They need his help. He comes back and he gets stuck there. Same thing happens. But I don't think that's what would happen if he did leave. This is my opinion, right? So I think when he goes, I think him and Ahsoka will then become the nomad grey Jedis that Ahsoka is kind of.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was alluding to.
Yeah, and I feel like Chancellor goes down. Ahsoka's the one to take away the prophecy for me to, get him as my apprentice. So I think it ends up having a similar moment, which we saw Savage and Darth Maul in Clone Wars, is when the Emperor comes down by himself to face eventually wherever they are, Anakin and Ahsoka, right? He exposes himself. He tells Anakin his intentions with everything, and he will destroy Ahsoka in front of Anakin's face, and Anakin will be heartbroken. Then Anakin will feed into his desperation emotions, and Emperor will beat and defeat Anakin, which will be interesting to see, like a one-on-one between them. And then Anakin kind of submits to him, and then I think that's how it happens with that. And or they go off on their own thing. The galaxy remains as it is. The Chancellor still evokes Order 66. However, though, Anakin is not with him by the side. Anakin and Ahsoka see this happen. Then they both come back to kind of be like the face of the rebellion for the original trilogy and stuff. And then thus maybe ending that 4 to 6 period war earlier, having those two fight with the rebels. I think that's my
cool.
brief.
I have 2 questions about those scenarios. The first one is in that one where Palpatine would go get them. I couldn't remember if you said it or not. Did you say he would kill Ahsoka and that would?
Yep.
And he would try to get Anakin on his side that way?
No, yeah, kind of. I said he would kill Ahsoka first, but then not just like that's it. He would also Anakin would obviously respond like he does. Like he wouldn't just be like, oh no, I'm done.
No, that's not what I meant, but
yeah. I reckon he would fight, get bested by Emperor, maybe have a limb chopped off or something, classic Star Wars. And then kind of then he realizes that he's in a pickle where he can't escape unless he joins his side, and then kind of gets brainwashed that way. Instead of
and then the second question I had, which I'm wondering if Cooper was thinking as well, is what would be the deal with Padme and the baby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or babies.
So I think Padme would also join them on their quests, but I feel like they would still keep in contact. Anakin will still talk to Padme like they do secretly already. But I think the Padme reason for Anakin to turn won't be as strong as I know. Obviously, he keeps seeing those Force visions and stuff.
Do you think Padme would still die?
No, I don't think she would, because I think this is my idea. I think Ahsoka in the Clone Wars has so many pivotal moments that would change Anakin's story entirely, and I think this is one of them. And the other one would be the message about that she got from Maul to tell Anakin, right? But I think this one here almost saves Anakin from that Padme dream, in my opinion, that Padme vision, right? So I think with Ahsoka and stuff too by his side, and how he's not influenced by the Council, he's not angered by the Council or influenced by Obi-Wan even in that such, then he would almost be like very certain to like not have that vision come true. But I don't think he would resort to the Chancellor there because he's already, gone from the Council and everything.
Well, yeah, that was what I was thinking, because if he still has the dreams, or if Padme still dies, the whole reason that it all happened the way it did is because Palpatine told him that there's a way to save her.
That's what I'm saying. I reckon it's more. Yeah.
I reckon he wouldn't be anywhere near Palpatine, so he couldn't tell him. But then I wonder what would have happened to Padme if she still would have died or not.
I don't know. I reckon Anakin would have still been her through childbirth and just be there just in case something happened. I think that's what it would have happened.
So you think Padme would still be a senator?
I think she would. Yeah, I think
they run off.
If
Anakin and Ahsoka ran off.
Yeah, because 100%. I just think it's the reason why she died. This is the whole Padme situation again. I reckon she just died from heartbreak, right? So I think if she wasn't heartbroken this time, she wouldn't be dead. And that's the whole thing. I don't think she was ever meant to die. I think those visions were placed in there because he could see that he was always going to become evil, kind of thing. But my theory with this one was that Ahsoka was the leading factor that he would either turn or not turn. You know what I mean? Because there's the two alternatives. So if the Emperor came, it would be the Ahsoka push to turn him, because she's like a younger sister, kind of like a family to him too. But then if they went off to the rebellion kind of side, and Emperor didn't come and still just went with his normal plans, maybe Count Dooku would still be alive and stuff, so maybe we'd go with Count and stuff. And then maybe then if Emperor still wanted to pursue Anakin, he would use a Padme then. If, even after the baby, it would be something else, because he always wants to think one step ahead and everything. But that's what I'm trying to say. That Anakin leaving with Ahsoka opens up a pathway to many abilities, opens a pathway to many forms, which is what I want to see, especially if they ever did make a show or something, because wow, Ahsoka has so many times when she could change Anakin's fate within an instant. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
That's
It's
true.
so good to watch.
I've kept relatively quiet, but I have written something down. I've
Mhm.
written two things down that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
First of all, this is based off of the first scenario you said where when Anakin leaves with Ahsoka, everything that we've seen play out with Ahsoka plays out just with Anakin
Yep.
this time. I think first of all, the race and no, not race, Trace and
Right.
Rafa arc would be much more enjoyable
100%. Yeah.
simply just to have another person in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. That.
I also want to go back to Padme quickly. I know I've spoken about her.
Yeah.
I think your ideas are quite interesting. I
Yeah.
think the way I would perceive it, maybe, I think Anakin. This is in a situation where everything that's happened doesn't happen or play out the
Mhm.
same way.
Yeah.
I reckon that Anakin, maybe while he leaves with Ahsoka, they would part ways, and I think Anakin would probably just spend out the rest of his days with Padme.
I don't think he'll be able to do that because he's someone who likes to be always on the move and doing something. You know what I mean?
He
I
likes
suppose,
to
but
be
Padme was
serving on the front line.
pregnant, so I feel like he
But
would
he
he would be
still
wanting
got.
to help out.
He doesn't give me the dad vibes like that. He likes the baby, but he cares more about Padme. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
Like
I don't think he'd be that okay with leaving Padme for
I
like
didn't. Well, Ahsoka didn't really leave. She was still around.
no, but she
Like
didn't really have anyone
that's what I'm saying. She didn't have
emotionally
the
close to
connection.
her.
Yeah, but that's why if Anakin's with Ahsoka, then Ahsoka would come with Anakin to the visits with Padme or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what my kind of theory is. Because
Okay.
Ahsoka would never go to Padme on her own, would she? Like, there's no point. There's no need for her to, she didn't want to see. Well, actually, good question. Why did she not try to make a meetup with Anakin even just to check up on him, aside from like at the end?
I think because she just wanted to keep herself. Anakin was a link back to the Jedi, and
So they would find out eventually, and yeah, just be
Yeah.
too. But anyway, you know what I mean. So I don't think he'd be able to. If he did, let's just say that was his first go to, like stay with Padme and the baby. But he would obviously get himself into trouble. He can't just sit there all day. He would not. He would not be able to do that. He's too ADHD. He wants to always be in a fight. He likes showing his power. You know what I mean. I don't think he'd be able to just be like a father and
I
not.
suppose I'm
Really.
just thinking more to the emotional moments because I reckon that is probably one of the moments that Anakin starts to turn. So if you take that away from him, that kind of limits the desire to maybe continue to fight. I don't know. I'm
Like,
just
I don't. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that's when you go into the nitty gritty of was it all like did everything he do was that because of Padme? Was that because of the fear of her dying? Like did it have anything to do with the baby at all? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't think he really cared about the babies being born, or he never talked about, oh, will the baby survive childbirth? No, he was just worried about Padme dying.
That's true.
I don't think he actually cared about
That is true, yeah.
because even when the first line he said, "Are you an angel?" He always was obsessed about Padme. Everything was about Padme, right? Not about the pregnancy was more of just like a thing that they had to hide, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that.
But he never really talked specifically about, oh, is the baby's going to be safe? Like even when he came into Darth Vader, is the children okay? Did like she have, like I know it would have been weird and not timed right, but like I wonder if he did say anything about that or wondered about that because it's like, well, he knew he had kids.
Yeah.
Like he asked about Padme, but he didn't even ask if the kids survived or like if they had the kids. Like what?
Yeah.
Like it's weird, in my opinion, about that. But yeah.
No, that was a really good one, Jack. And like
That
you said,
was.
opens a lot of different avenues for different explorations. I think that's what a good what if does.
We
Yep.
need to see more what ifs, not just for Marvel, because I feel like Marvel are almost more limited than some of these franchises with Star Wars, where one thing changes everything. Like I think with Marvel, there's so many characters, so many situations which would just be like shoe-in replacements. When this
Yeah.
one implication can affect literally the entire thing. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
ultimate story. Something like that would be crazy, crazy as,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, to those
Oh.
who have been listening and watching, we hope you've enjoyed.
Oh.
And if you want to, sorry, were you going to say something, Mark?
No, I just thought of an awesome one that I only just thought of for what if.
but
Go.
Oh, you're gonna go? I was gonna say, are we gonna do a part 2 though and leave him
I was
teased?
going to say, if you guys want us to do a part 2, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
I'll mention it, but we won't have to go into it.
Okay.
I was gonna say, what if Mace Windu and his Jedi friends managed to defeat Palpatine.
See, there's another one. That's
He did.
heaps of
He
information.
defeated Palpatine though. Is that Anakin didn't show up?
Killed.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure to go follow us on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Where else we on? We're on Patreon. Thanks
Patreon.
to Ben and Nikita, as always. And we're on Reddit. Is that right?
Yep.
On
Coruscant.
Reddit. Yep. Also, a reminder, currently we're doing YouTube polls, poster tournament, Star Wars poster tournament. I think we're still in the first round. We're in the 7th or 8th matchup.
Nearing the end.
We're nearing the end of the first side of the bracket, and then
It's been very interesting results.
It's been very lopsided, which is strange. There's only been one really close result so far.
There's one that was 50-50 for a while.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be posting updates on where the bracket kind of stands, and they'll be posted daily throughout the week. So stay tuned, keep a look at, and make sure to vote because it's really exciting. And when we get down to the nitty gritty, that's when it'll be a lot closer and a lot more exciting.
And
But
just like to mention, if that's all right, Cooper.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have a very exciting podcast for the following week. If you want to give them a tease on what's coming, we also
next week.
We've alluded to this for a long time on the podcast.
Well, it's a big thing. Yeah,
this is a big thing. This has been like our little baby that's been growing up since the start of our channel. Speaking of, just quickly, it's been Mark. Do you want to announce it?
Yes, it's we've officially reached 6 months of the podcast.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you to all our listeners.
Thank you.
Who've been keeping up with us every week.
That's it. Yeah, thank you. So this has been conceived for about 6 months, and it's finally going to happen next week. The great Star Wars debate.
Yes.
This has taken so long to get ready. There's been so many moving parts and so many dates and times we've had to get right, but it will be worth it because we're going to have a good old-fashioned debate. It is not about who is right and who is wrong. We'll have an impartial judge here who will be deciding.
We'll have a special guest judge.
Their point the best. There'll be yes or no questions. One person will have to answer yes or argue yes.
We may not even agree with what we're arguing for.
That's it.
The point is for the argument.
Yeah,
that's it. Whoever can argue their point the best will win, and that is the whole point. These are going to be some tricky questions, and also will challenge all of us.
Yeah, it's just
abilities.
No preparation for us either.
No,
I was going to say it's just to see who has the best arguments, but it's also to see who's the most passionate about what we're talking about at the time.
You know, it would just be such a great debate. Either me or Jack having to say that The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie, and Cooper having to say it was the worst.
You know what? Look, I actually reckon I'm not going to. Obviously, I reckon I'll be able to.
Yeah,
I could positive that pretty well. I reckon.
I reckon I could as well.
I reckon I could as well. Primarily on film techniques. That's what I would go for. The film standpoint, not the other stuff.
While we're on the topic of videos, Jack, we've got a video coming out. When's that coming out? Your next one?
This coming Wednesday, so in 3 days from today.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So
it'll
be Wednesday. So it'll be after this one comes out, which you guys will be listening to now, but before the great debate.
Okay.
So keep tuned on that one. Is actually our first one we're doing with this. It's just a small mini video about characters that you don't actually know much about in the franchise, or that is all that well developed about. So this one's a specific bounty hunter who has very interesting features and stuff about him, which you have to keep the tune on. Where on YouTube,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Keep notifications on, and you will see it on Wednesday. Yeah.
And of course, last thing, Ahsoka is coming out in like 3 weeks. So that we'll be covering all the episodes. Since it's a 2-episode premiere, I don't know if we're going to be doing both in the same week. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
That'll be up for discussion. However, though, we will be watching it all together, and we will give maybe a brief, even on Instagram, just a overall score for both.
Like we did with Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So like each person score out of 10 or whatever, and a brief little sentence or two.
Yep. So the next, I'd say 10, 11 weeks are very exciting for us here, and we hope you
Yep.
guys are excited as
Very
well.
exciting.
Thanks for checking out this video. Hit subscribe if you're on YouTube, and thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.